Hi, I'm Chantal, and I'm learning how to be a potter. Started about a year ago, finding some fun vintage molds on Facebook, and it just kind of grew from there. So join along with me as I take this pottery from a little hobby to hopefully a thriving ceramics business. Y'all, today we're gonna make these amazing donut bowls. So this is just a really simple slip cast project. So I've got this beautiful mold that makes the donut shaped bowl using slip, and my slip is way too thick right now, which is really kind of gross and could end up with some projects. But you know what, I'm kind of new to this, and just know it's not normal. It being this thick is not normal. So you let it sit for about 20 minutes and then you pour back the excess. And then you wait a couple of hours for your mold, for the clay to set up in the mold nicely. So you can see here where I've got to clean up a lot on the outside of the mold. This is a vintage mold, and I know it says $10 there, but I assure you that is not how much the bowl sells for, nor is it how much the mold sells for. I don't know who wrote $10. And to be honest, I'm not even really sure that this particular shape is intended to look this way or to be used in this function. But for me, this was the perfect shape. It reminded me of a donut. And so the first thing I thought of was, once I got it casted, and out of the mold that first time, it was like, seriously, had to become a donut. One of the things about that, though, is that you've really got to clean up the bowl itself for you to do anything fun. And as you can see, I tried several times cleaning up the bowls with different tools, and what I kind of learned was it just kind of depends. No one tool is the right tool, which is really, really handy. And it doesn't really matter. You can use a sponge, you can use these scrapey tools. I don't know what they're called. I just know I bought a pack of them on Amazon one time and it was fabulous. And it turns out they're perfect for anything. So I've got like this loop here that's like a square loop, which is really nice for making these sharper edges where you want like the opening of your bowl to be. But I found that a pen knife, or even my pocket knife, or I stole my husband's carving knife that he uses for carving wood, they're all really great for just different aspects. And even the sponge is not perfect for every single thing. And as you can see, it really does make a difference cleaning them up, how neat it looks afterward when you use the different tools and find one that fits whatever the thing that you're working on, right? So once the sides were all cleaned up, I got like all the extra little bits and bobs out of each bowl, and then I just cleaned up the inside of the bowl. I mean, like I said before, my slip was really thick, and so it made for kind of a huge mess on the inside of the bowls. So I don't recommend using such thick slip, but I do recommend making sprinkles in this really fantastic method that no one has ever thought of. You make tiny snakes and you roll them out, and then you just cut them into little lengths. And once you've cut about 8 million of them, and you kind of clean up each end so that they're nice and sprinkle looking, you can save them for a while, because it doesn't matter if they really dry out or whatever, because you're going to underglaze them and get them stuck. And I mean, it's kind of a thing. So if you make a ton of sprinkles and save them, that's fine. You just put them in a Ziploc bag or whatever. But I decided to make all the sprinkles all while I was waiting for the bowls to set up a little bit, so that I could put the slip on them to make the glaze. So enjoy some sprinkle making. Yep, while we're having an obnoxiously long amount of time of making these little sprinkles, I did want to say that the way that I made these original donut bowls may not be the way I make them in the future. After I made them and I thought about it and I've had a couple more experience doing a couple more things, I've decided that maybe this is not the most efficient method, but I haven't had a chance to try out the new methods. So I'm going to go ahead and publish the video, show how I did it to get the whole idea started. So my bowl's all ready. I've got my sprinkles aside, and I have some really chunky, gnarly slip that is kind of set in this jar and dried out, and it's just real thick. It doesn't really run. You probably couldn't even really call it slip at this point. I mean, it's so thick, it's like cake batter. And I'm putting it on here with my finger. You could do it with a paintbrush, I guess. But then you'd have clay all up in your paintbrush. So, I mean, and then I just kind of glopped it on there. If I wanted to shape it, I could use a little bit of my clay water or my water that I put my sponges in to kind of smooth it. But you don't want to introduce too much more water to it, because then it will like really run in one area. So it's just kind of a balance, and this really thick slip really does make quite the statement on these donut bowls. It's the funnest part, I personally think. So with that, making my icing and getting it all nice and smooth and everything, it was time to put on the sprinkles. And don't mind me, I just kind of forgot to start the camera when I got started with the sprinkles. And it's kind of a hoot just to randomly place the silly things. Here they're still a little bit damp, and so if they're misshapen or whatever, I can still kind of clean them up or whatever. But you got to work fast, because you want to stick them on there before the slip gets too hard for them to stick, and that slip is going to dry out quite quickly. And don't mind me, I just accidentally drop some of them on there and they just kind of randomly fall, but then other ones I kind of embed a little bit. I really just don't want them like sticking up or sticking out so that they leave a sharp edge. That's the only thing I was really thinking about. Not really where they were, but trying to keep them from sticking up, if that makes any sense. So for example, that one that's sticking up here in a minute, I'll smush him down, or whatever. So once they were all finished up there, I bisqued them, and you can see where that one dribbled down. But no big deal, kind of fun. Gonna make these look so cute, and I just cannot wait to get them glazed, because they're so cool. So I mixed up a bunch of different kind of shades of what I think will turn out to be donut color when I'm done. These are underglazes though, so I mean, there's no telling. They could completely burn out and leave me with the color of the clay when it's finished, which is not quite as white. Once you get a clear glaze on the top, it's more of a little bit of a yellow. But with these different shades, I could really try out what ends up being the best if I would write it down. But I didn't write it down because I'm smart. I also couldn't keep the camera angle on what I was painting, which is also very smart. I'm going to be a YouTube star with this production value, aren't I? And some decisions were being made here, because I'll be honest, I'm not even 100% certain that I was really careful about the number of coats that I did of the underglaze. I mean, I know I did 3, but it still looks really splotchy, and I think that part of that is the color I was going for and the fact that I wasn't being particularly careful. And as you can see, I'm like really thinking about it as I'm going around, going really slow in areas and almost like wiping off the underglaze that was laid on there the first time, which is not how you're supposed to do it. But after the 3rd coat on the bottom, I went ahead and went in with my different icing colors for the top of the donuts. This was a little bit more challenging for me than I would have preferred. Again, I have now thought about a different way to attach the sprinkles, for example. That'll make it a lot easier to underglaze. The deal, though, is that it will make embedding those sprinkles a little bit more difficult. So if I can make this a little bit easier for myself at the end of the day, I probably will, and maybe just not embed them, because going around these sprinkles was quite the effort. And I know you're saying, oh, Chantal, you could just paint right over them with whatever your base color is for the icing. But no, you really can't, because that's going to change the color potentially of the colors you put on the sprinkles. So I really don't want to do that. I mean, it's better to just paint with a white base, right, is what I'm thinking. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have no clue what I'm talking about. Maybe I need to just experiment and see if it does change the color of whatever you're putting on top. And it's worth experimenting, but at this juncture, I didn't, because you know what, to be honest with you, this is like the first thing I've ever made that's like my own. I have poured a couple of other things and glazed them just to try out my kiln and stuff, but this is the first thing that's truly a piece of art that I have made in ceramics. And I'm learning, right? I'm learning, maybe? Okay, but in all seriousness, I really am learning. And like, one thing I'm learning is how to hold the item in the camera shot. Just seriously, I don't know what I was thinking here. But also, I learned that this is not enough coats. This is first time I'm using some of this product, so I didn't know like how thick the coats needed to be. They need to be pretty thick. They say 2 to 3 thin coats. They really mean 3 or 4 fairly thick coats. So you can see here that this pink appears to be pretty good on the icing, for example, but it turns out no, it's not really good. It's actually terrible. And then I think part of the problem also is the mixing it with a white to make a pastel. It just burns out. And so, you know, that's maybe why with a lot of commercial ceramic glazes, you don't see a lot of pinks, because it doesn't stick around very good. However, that being said, again, I think that a solution to that is maybe a 4th coat, a little bit thicker application, and not putting the sprinkles on before the bisque fire. If I can set them aside and do them whenever I glaze finally, like right now, if I had waited to put the sprinkles on until now, that might have been a better choice. But I didn't know at the time, and that's okay. This, however, is the most horrible part of ceramics. You've painted all that, and now you've clear glazed them, which makes them look awful, covers up all your pretty work, and now you're putting them in the kiln and you have no idea how they're going to turn out. It's crazy. I did put some stilts underneath them, which I have since decided was a stupid idea because it like leaves marks. It's probably better not to do that. So here I am the next day pulling them out, and look how pretty they are. They're so cute. But you can see that darker pink one just does not look, it doesn't look as good as it could have. That light pink one looks really great, but that darker pink one, it could have used a 4th coat. So thank y'all very much for being here. This is such a fun time. And if you like ceramics and this was fun, follow me, I guess. Thanks.